Most men try to impress women with effort. Gifts. Compliments. Availability. They polish their image. They sharpen their jokes. They make themselves convenient. And then they wonder why they disappear from her mind the moment they leave the room. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The more you try to be liked, the easier you are to replace. Let that sink in. Because this isn't about romance. It's about psychological leverage. And Niccolò Machiavelli understood something most men never dare to face. The goal is not to be liked. It's to be unforgettable. Not by flooding her with attention, but by controlling what she feels when you are absent. In this video, you're going to learn 9 psychological frameworks inspired by Machiavelli's thinking. Not pick-up tricks. Not lines. Frameworks. Designed to trigger emotional gravity without flattery. No chasing. No performing. No begging. You will learn how to become the man she can't logically explain but can't stop thinking about. And once you understand how this works, you won't move like an average man again. Let's begin with something most men reject instantly. It is safer to be feared than loved. That sentence alone makes people uncomfortable. Good. It should. Because it forces you to question everything you were taught. You were told love is the highest currency. That if you're supportive enough, patient enough, emotionally available enough, she'll value you. But watch behavior, not words. Watch who she respects. Watch who she worries about losing. Love feels warm. It feels safe. But safety without tension becomes background noise. Predictable. Soft. Easy. And what is easy is rarely treasured. This is where men collapse. They believe love is built by giving more. More reassurance. More validation. More vulnerability. But when something is handed over without resistance, it carries no weight. Now understand this clearly. Fear is not aggression. It's not shouting. It's not control. It's not jealousy disguised as dominance. That's insecurity wearing a costume. And women detect that instantly. Real psychological fear is quiet. It's when your boundaries are so solid they don't need explanation. You don't argue. You don't threaten. You don't overcommunicate your hurt. You adjust your behavior. You withdraw access. You step back. And your silence does the teaching. Ask yourself, have you ever stayed after being disrespected? Have you ever explained your standards instead of enforcing them? That's where attraction dies. The man who chases after being crossed teaches her something dangerous. That his rules are flexible. That his presence is negotiable. But the man who calmly removes himself? He creates tension. Because suddenly, she feels something shift. Not anger. Not drama. Loss. And loss is powerful. The moment she realizes you will not bend your standards to keep her, the frame changes. She understands that if she crosses certain lines, you are gone. Not in rage. Not theatrically. Just gone. And that is when attraction deepens into obsession. Not because you gave her more, but because you were willing to give her nothing when respect disappeared. That's the real meaning behind fear over love. It's not fear of you. It's fear of losing access to you. Most women are not obsessed with being loved. They are obsessed with the man who doesn't need their love to feel complete. Think about that carefully. Who gets chased? The man who walks away. Who gets respected? The one who doesn't fold under pressure. Who lingers in her mind? The man who never begged. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't dramatic. He was stable. Unmoved. Unshakable. He had standards that were not for sale. So when Machiavelli spoke about fear being safer than love, he wasn't dismissing affection. He was prioritizing respect. Without the possibility of loss, love grows lazy. Without consequences, attraction weakens. Desire intensifies when there is something at stake. And here's the part most men avoid. If she doesn't fear losing you, you are replaceable. If she knows you'll stay no matter what, she stops investing. But if she senses, even quietly, that you will not remain where you are not respected, you never have to demand attention. She starts qualifying herself to you. That's not cruelty. It's psychological gravity. Now let's go deeper. Machiavelli also said something even more disruptive. It is not necessary to be good. It is necessary to appear good. That line dismantles the illusion most men live inside. From childhood, you were trained to believe that being genuine is enough. Be loyal. Be honest. Be kind. And you will be rewarded. But the world does not respond to your internal truth. It responds to what it perceives. You can have discipline, intelligence, depth. But if you present yourself with hesitation in your posture, uncertainty in your tone, nervous energy in your reactions, none of your inner value will register. Attraction doesn't begin with facts. It begins with perception. She is not analyzing your RSUM. She is reading your presence. How you enter a room. How you handle interruption. How you respond when challenged. Does your voice tighten? Do your shoulders shift? Do you over-explain? That's where power is won or lost. This isn't about deception. It's about framing. Humans don't respond to objective truth. They respond to what feels true. If you don't control your presentation, her emotions will define you. Her past experiences will label you. Her biases will categorize you. And once that happens, you are reacting instead of leading. So what does mastery look like? When you feel uncertain, your body stays steady. When you feel anger, your voice lowers instead of rises. When you want to chase, you pause. Stillness is power. Mystery is leverage. Let her see most of you, but not all. Leave space. Let her imagination work. What she builds in her mind will often be more powerful than anything you could say. People chase what they cannot fully decode. Obsession rarely starts with oversharing. It begins with restraint. So stop trying to be fully understood. Start controlling what is revealed. Because in a world driven by perception, image is strategy. And strategy wins. Now understand the dual nature you must develop. The lion and the fox. Strength and intelligence. Directness and subtlety. Every woman will test you. Not always consciously. Not always maliciously. But she will. She may pull back her energy. She may shift tone. She may go cold after being warm. She may contradict herself. And most men panic. They assume something is wrong. They try to fix it. They overcommunicate. They apologize for things they didn't do. They explain their intentions. And in doing so, they fail the test. Because the test was never about the issue. It was about your stability. Do you collapse under uncertainty? Or do you hold frame? And here's the uncomfortable question. When she shifts energy, do you shift with her? Or do you remain centered? Because if you don't even realize you're being tested, you've already surrendered control. And this is only the surface layer of the game. Centuries ago, Niccolò Machiavelli laid out a blueprint most men still fail to execute. A powerful man must be both lion and fox. Not one. Both. The lion is visible strength. He doesn't chase when energy shifts. He doesn't rush to clarify himself when tension appears. His boundaries are not speeches, they're felt. He can enter a room without raising his voice and still alter the temperature. That's presence. The fox is controlled intelligence. He doesn't react to bait. He doesn't expose his strategy. He listens longer than he speaks. He studies patterns. And when he moves, it's deliberate. Clean. Timed. Now here's where men sabotage themselves. If you're only the lion, direct, dominant, forceful, she will test your temper. She will provoke subtly. A delayed text. A dismissive tone. A contradiction. And if you flare up, your strength dissolves into volatility. Power becomes noise. And noise is predictable. If you're only the fox, smooth, analytical, emotionally contained, she may enjoy your mind, but she won't feel your backbone. Without visible strength, calculation looks like hesitation. Charm without edge feels hollow. And she will not trust hollow leadership. But when she senses both, when she sees steel beneath calm and calculation beneath stillness, you become difficult to read. And unpredictability creates tension. Tension creates focus. Focus becomes obsession. So how do you live this, not just understand it? When she becomes emotional, you become the fox. You observe. You don't rush to fix. You don't absorb her storm. You let it crash against something solid. Your calm unsettles more than any argument ever could. But when a boundary is crossed, you become the lion. Not louder. Not aggressive. Colder. Slower. Direct. A look. A shift in tone. A withdrawal of access. That doesn't work for me. And then silence. No lecture. No debate. Presence. That's what commands respect. Not because you dominate, but because you do not flinch. Most men try to win every exchange. The lion fox doesn't play exchanges. He plays position. He watches. He waits. He moves when movement matters. Strength protects your respect. Intelligence protects your leverage. Together, they make you unpredictable. And the mind fixates on what it cannot fully predict. Now let's go deeper into something more subtle. Divide and conquer. You think that applies to armies? It applies to psychology. You don't control someone by overpowering their beliefs. You influence by creating internal tension. When a woman feels certain, she feels stable. Grounded. In control. Certainty closes curiosity. And closed curiosity kills attraction. Your move is not to attack her worldview. It's to tilt it. Slightly. She says, "I can't stand jealous men." Most men rush to agree. They nod. They validate. They perform alignment. You don't. You smile slightly. That's what you think. Then you stop. No explanation. No elaboration. Just enough ambiguity to create friction. And now her mind turns inward. What did he mean? Does he disagree? Why did that land differently? That's the crack. You didn't argue. You didn't challenge aggressively. You introduced uncertainty. And uncertainty reopens attention. Understand this carefully. You are not dividing her from you. You are dividing her from her own certainty. When part of her holds her belief and another part begins questioning it, she becomes internally engaged. And whoever triggered that engagement becomes psychologically relevant. Is this manipulative? Or is it strategic awareness? Most men flood her with agreement because they want approval. They want to be safe. But safety without tension fades into the background. Tension, when controlled, creates depth. You don't fight her beliefs. You tap them once. Calmly. Then you let silence expand. She will debate herself long after the conversation ends. And you? You said almost nothing. That is influence without force. That is precision. Now we move to something even more tactical. Injuries must be inflicted all at once, but benefits given little by little. Machiavelli understood nervous systems before neuroscience had a name. When a boundary is crossed, you do not deliver a series of emotional warnings. You do not escalate drama. You do not argue in paragraphs. You execute one clean adjustment. Access reduced. Energy withdrawn. Communication paused. Calmly. Immediately. No hostility. Just absence. And absence is loud. Because there is nothing to fight. Nothing to push against. She is left alone with interpretation. What changed? Did I go too far? Is he done? That space becomes pressure. Her own mind does the work you never had to. That is the injury delivered once. Decisive. Controlled. Now comes reward. But slowly. When she aligns with your standards, when she shows warmth, loyalty, respect, you respond. Not with overwhelming affection. Not with emotional flooding. A measured smile. A brief compliment. A moment of deeper attention. Then you return to baseline. You do not create constant certainty of access. You create variability. And variability activates pursuit. Casinos don't pay every pull. That's why people keep pulling. If you reward constantly, she relaxes. If you punish constantly, she detaches. But if consequences are swift and rewards are paced, her nervous system stays engaged. Most men reverse this. They punish in waves, nagging, arguing, emotional spirals. And they reward instantly, overpraising, overinvesting, oversharing. They become predictable. Emotional. Transparent. You don't. You correct once. And you reward in fragments. This is not cruelty. It is discipline. Pain delivered quickly is remembered. Pleasure delivered gradually is anticipated. And anticipation sustains attraction longer than satisfaction ever will. But here's the question you need to ask yourself. Can you actually execute this without emotion hijacking you? Or do you still react when tested? Because the next layer isn't about tactics. It's about control over your own impulses. And without that, none of this works. Most men look at a woman and see curves. A Machiavellian mind looks and sees patterns. While others are hypnotized by beauty, you stay still. You don't stare with hunger. You observe with detachment. Precision over impulse. You notice how her tone changes depending on the man beside her. When she respects him, her voice softens, her posture aligns, her laughter lands slower. When she controls him, her energy sharpens, her eyes wander, her attention fragments. Do you see the difference? Or have you been too distracted to notice? The disciplined man tracks micro-shifts. A glance that lingers half a second longer. A smile that doesn't reach the eyes. A posture that straightens when a certain name is mentioned. He watches when she performs and when the mask slips. No interrogation. No flattery. Just presence. Because while most men are trying to access her body, he has already mapped her psychology. And when the window opens, never forced, never rushed, he delivers one sentence. Calm. Clean. Without emotional charge. You speak differently when he's around. Or, that laugh isn't real. Then nothing. No smirk. No explanation. Silence. And in that silence, something shifts. Because you didn't compliment her. You didn't accuse her. You named a pattern she hoped no one noticed. The female mind does not discard moments like that. It replays them. How did he see that? What else did he catch? Was I transparent? Has he been reading me this whole time? Admiration fades. Exposure lingers. And here's the difference: exposure without aggression feels powerful. You didn't push. You didn't demand. You simply revealed awareness. That's psychological dominance. Quiet. Controlled. Echoing long after you leave. She will forget who bought her drinks. She will forget the men who praised her beauty. She will not forget the one who saw the mechanism behind the mask and spoke it aloud. Not to shame. Not to attack. But to signal. I see the structure. Once she feels that, you occupy mental space differently. You are no longer just attention. You are perception. And perception is harder to replace. Now we move into something even sharper. Control through absence. If you are always reachable, always responsive, always orbiting, you become predictable. Predictability breeds comfort. Comfort breeds complacency. Complacency kills tension. But when you step back without warning, no drama, no speech, no emotional exit, you create something rare. A void. And the mind hates a void. It must fill it. When you disappear, her internal dialogue amplifies. She revisits conversations. She analyzes pauses. She searches for hidden meaning. Did I overstep? Did he lose interest? Was I too cold? Now she is investing thought where you once invested effort. That is reversal of leverage. Most men over-explain, overstay, overextend. You don't. You withdraw when your value is diluted. Not to punish. To recalibrate. And in that space, imagination expands you. She doesn't remember you as you were. She reconstructs you larger. Colder. More controlled. You transform from man to question mark. And unresolved questions linger. Understand this carefully. Absence only works if presence carried weight. If you were weak while present, disappearance feels like relief. If you were centered, disappearance feels like loss. Timing is everything. You do not vanish out of emotion. You do it from alignment. When respect drops, you step back. Calmly. And when you return unchanged. No resentment. No overcompensation. Just baseline composure. She will not greet you with rage. She will greet you with curiosity. And underneath curiosity, caution. Because she now understands something critical. You can leave. And you can do it without collapsing. That realization creates gravity. And gravity doesn't chase. It pulls. So disappear long enough for her to question if she ever truly had you. Then reappear without explanation. Watch what shifts. Now let's go deeper. If you want permanence in her mind, don't aim to be the man she dated. Aim to be the moment she transformed. Women may forget faces. They do not forget turning points. The man who challenged a belief she held for years. The man who didn't chase when every other man did. The man who set a boundary and enforced it without theatrics. Maybe you were the first who refused to compete for her validation. Maybe you were the first who walked away without bitterness. Maybe you were the first who said something she wasn't prepared to hear. And then you left. Not loudly. Just decisively. But in her internal narrative, you remained. Because you were attached to a shift. And emotional shifts anchor memory. She may move forward. She may smile with someone else. She may even convince herself she forgot you. But she will not forget the version of herself that emerged during your presence. That internal evolution will always trace back to you. That is how you become a chapter she cannot rewrite. This isn't about charm. It's about imprint. Now let's be precise. These are not pickup lines. not surface tactics. These are structures designed to press psychological switches. Most men seek attention. You build weight. The kind of weight that makes her pause mid-thought. The kind that lingers when she's alone. You are not there to entertain. Not there to validate. Not there to orbit her emotions. You are there to shift her center of gravity. One sentence that cuts through defense. One withdrawal that resets value. One look that communicates awareness. And then restraint. Because restraint amplifies impact. Ask yourself, are you addicted to approval? Do you overspeak when silence would be stronger? Do you chase closure when mystery would serve you better? This path requires discipline, emotional control, strategic timing. Without self-mastery, these principles collapse into manipulation. With self-mastery, they become influence. And influence feels different. It feels calm, calculated, intentional. If something in you tightened while hearing this, that's awareness. If you recognized past mistakes, that's growth. And if you feel resistance, ask why. Because none of this works unless you first control yourself. Your impulses. Your neediness. Your fear of losing her. The man who fears losing cannot create fear of loss. Remember that. You are not here to dominate emotionally. You are here to refuse weakness. There's a difference. And the deeper layer? It's not about controlling her. It's about becoming the man who cannot be easily controlled. Once that happens, everything shifts. And this is only the surface of what psychological power really looks like.